Good morning. It's the Civic Pulse with David Bonior and Brian Brady. Happy daylight savings time. I needed an extra cup of coffee today, David, to wake up. How about you?
Well, I had that extra cup of coffee, but I get up at ridiculous hours. I've got to tiptoe around so I don't wake Judy up at night. She doesn't sleep either, so she hears me, but I'm very quiet, and I'm usually up at 5, so it didn't make too much of a difference to me. But happy happy day to you. Happy week, I hope. I mean, I don't know what there's much to be happy about on the political scene and nationally and internationally, but we can talk about those things.
I got to see the sunrise. That's the happiest thing. I mean, the
Well, that's
politics,
a good thing. A great way to start the day.
beautiful sunrise over Lake Michigan today.
Oh,
Yes.
how wonderful.
Incredible. Hey, let's dive into the. It seems like each week gets a little more existential and queasy. It makes my stomach queasy. The politics
Yeah.
that are happening today, right? This war in Iran. So let's dive right into it, and also just get your opinion on Congress choosing not to weigh in and declare war or not declare war here. What's as someone who's lived through a few wars in Congress and declarations and non-declarations, what do you make of all this?
Always been a problem to figure this piece out. And because the Constitution is very clear regarding that it's Congress's responsibility. So, way people have gotten around it in Congress and more importantly within the administration is by calling it something other than what it really is. It's a war. People are dropping bombs. Service people from the United States are being killed. We just had 170 Iranian students, girls killed in their school with 14 teachers. I mean, it's a really, if you look at the news, it's all over the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Israel, it's in Bahrain, it's in Kuwait, it's in all those up and down countries in the Gulf. It's a full scale war. So, what's going to happen in terms of Congress ought to have hearings and ought to have a say about all of this, and it, not after the fact, but before this happens, before they declare war or go to war, I should say. But that's not been the case, and so there will be a serious effort at some point, maybe not in my lifetime, but to rewrite the meaning of war and what the Constitution says on this issue, because it's always comes up and it's always a huge problem.
Let's go through the wars real quick. In Vietnam, did it ever have a declaration of war?
No, they finessed that. No, the answer is no.
It's the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah, Gulf of Tonkin resolution,
Yeah.
but and they had a vote on, by the way, on this Iraq situation last week, both in the Senate and the House, and they came short of the votes needed to stop our activity. So very close. It was like 3 votes difference in the House and 3 votes difference in the Senate.
And 4 Democrats sided with the Republicans on this. So
in the House,
yeah. The Central American Wars obviously were clandestine, so we didn't have anything there. The little journey to Grenada and Panama that had nothing.
Well, that went on for 10 years. That went on from late 79 to 89, and
the CIA wars, right?
Yeah. And then we've had CIA wars in Pakistan, and we've had them in Afghanistan. We did have an action in Iraq, and they had a vote before that. I just left before that vote. I left the Congress, but
let's go for a second.
I'm sorry.
You're talking in 2003.
2003, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that did you vote on that war resolution?
Yeah, I voted against the war before that, but they had the real vote on it in 2003, and I left in the end of 2002.
Yeah, a lot of Democrats disappointed us then.
In fact, I went to Iraq to try to convince some people there that if they had any nuclear weapons, which I did not know that they did,
Yeah.
They really ought to be forthcoming because war is coming. And I try to make that case to the foreign minister, Aziz was his name, Tariq Aziz, and others. They wanted me to meet with Saddam Hussein, and I wouldn't do it. Saddam Hussein, excuse me.
Yeah.
But because I just didn't feel right about that. But I did meet with people who met with him all the time to try to get the point across.
Yeah, that was to me the turning point on so many things. First Gulf War, we have a war declaration? I think we did, right?
Yeah, I think there was an overriding support on that. You're talking about the one with
Bush.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah,
89 was that, or 90?
Where Bush was elected. No, that you mean George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did have a vote on that then.
So there's mixed history.
It's mixed. Yes, it's mixed.
What's fascinating on this one is that at least the Bush regime, which made such an awful decision to go to war in Iraq, they at least tried to win general public opinion over.
Yeah.
And there was an effort to go to the UN and to, all these steps. These guys didn't. They just like, we got our Fox viewing audience. We got 35% of the country. That's enough for us.
Yeah, I mean, they got hoodwinked into this by Cheney, who was Secretary of Defense. And his father, W's father, George Herbert Walker Bush, who was there during the first Gulf War, Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf was the big hero back then, you might remember.
Sure.
But I had a respect for the elder Bush because, he fought in World War II. He was a fighter pilot, and he was shot down. And he was shot down, and other pilots in his squadron were shot down as well. And some of them were imprisoned, and some of them died. And so he saw a lot of action, and so I think that's important to me. I want to know that our commander in chief understands what's going on here in terms of what war actually means. But Trump, he got out of serving because of something on his feet, I think, but I'm not quite sure. He got a deferment. And a lot of these people never served that have been president of the United States. So
hey, do you have the stomach to watch these briefings? I don't. I hear they're like a clown show. They're like sound like
no, I don't really watch them.
People are saying there's like 11, 12-year-old kids talking about video games is how it's sounding. The Pete Hegseth and Saturday Night Live is making fun of them, like, oh, we're kicking butt here, all that.
Yeah, this is families we're talking about. These are communities. I mean, this is just terrific stuff. There's a little sensitivity in this administration to life and what war brings. War is ugly. It's terrible. It's horrific. It's destroying, societies and values. And of course, this war just recently, we've had, as I said earlier, all those children were murdered. They were in a facility, as I understand it, I maybe stand corrected here, that used to be part of a complex that was a military complex. And my guess is, and I don't know this, but my guess is, and some of the people who are looking at this think that we hit them by mistake.
Yeah.
But we're not admitting to it because we're so deep into this right now. And Trump, I just saw him on the news this morning saying, no, that Iran did it. Well, why would Iran bomb their own people?
Yeah. And
I mean, it's just really odd. So we'll see what transpires from this. Nothing good, believe me. And he's in bed now with Netanyahu, who led this war.
How much do you think Netanyahu made this war happen, and how much was Trump?
Oh, it's huge. Netanyahu he's been wanting to get rid of the powers in Iran for a long time and get rid of their nuclear capability. So I'm convinced he brought Trump into this.
And then in the bizarro, depressing world, we have Ukrainians now training Americans how to combat Shahed drones from Iran, right?
Oh,
Is
it's just wild because the Ukrainians now have the skill and the knowledge on how to do this,
Yeah.
and they're probably the leading country. They're the strongest military power in Europe right now,
Yeah.
outside of Russia, which is half in Europe and half in Asia. But the Ukrainians have an incredible military uh, component and a technological component in the military,
Mhm.
or working with the military on drones. So people come from around the world to visit the Ukrainians and learn about this stuff and get ready for it, because that's where wars are going right now. And so we've got this crazy situation in which Putin, who Trump is a buddy of and won't do anything to get him to really move to settle this war, Putin is providing the Iranians with information of targets on where they should strike. And they had been striking the Iranians with their Shahad drones. They've been targeting strategic places in all of these countries that they've hit in the last week and a half. And that's coming right out of Russia.
And it's just insane that Ukraine still has to help the Americans. Does Vance have to go and put a suit on and go thank Zelensky now? Is that
I don't know, but so we're providing the U.S. and we're also providing these countries that are being hit by Iran. These, half a dozen or a dozen countries, depending upon which ones have been hit, with with information. As Ukraine's been giving them information regarding drone warfare, so they become allies now of Ukraine. It's pretty wild.
But then we have the spike in oil prices helping create, as Russia's economy is now flat on its back, it's getting
Yeah.
revived, it's getting revived by this war. All those unintended consequences.
Well, yeah, I just heard last night
What's
that
the goal? What is the goal of this war? Do you know what it is? Have you
nobody
figured
knows what the goal is. Is it regime change? Is it to get rid of the nuclear capabilities and development of Iran, or what is it? Something else? It's about a half a dozen suggestions have been put out by the administration from different people. Nobody really knows what the end game here is and how they're going to get there. And this, I thought from the very beginning, I maybe have said it on a previous show, that this thing could spread and it could be very dangerous and hard to corral once it does. It is spread. And now I was going to say, I just heard that, one of the big problems in the Ukraine war is trying to stop this illegal shipment of oil to countries like India, which is a big user of Russian oil. So they've got this fleet out there on the oceans that are circumventing international law, and shipping this stuff. And we were going to stand up to them eventually, but now with what's happened in this new war with Iran, they've decided not to do that. So that hurts Ukraine, of course. Ukraine wants to shut this pipeline of oil that's financing the war for Russia.
Here's my hope. You give me my most hopeful scenario. I just have to hold on to some hope. Is that I think Trump only listens to the markets. That's really to curb that's the only force that can really curb his behavior. So if oil gets to 100
Yeah.
and the markets crash to 45, about 10-20%,
Yeah.
I think then he declares victory and walks away.
But from what? Both Iran?
From the Iran attacks. We did our job. We depleted them.
Yeah, I think he will just wash his hands of this at some point and leave the mess to be sorted out by, I don't know, by the countries that are still involved. And it's pretty much what he's doing now in Ukraine. Although we still are providing the Ukrainians with intelligence, which is significant. Yeah. And we are providing a way for them to get support from their European allies. So, but anyway, it's a hell of a way to do business. I'm done. I've tried my best, and it didn't work out when they really didn't try their best or know what they were doing.
And you'll leave a more hardline government in Iran that will declare victory because America.
Well, they're talking about the son.
Yeah.
Khomeini's.
The clerics are still going to run that country.
Oh yeah, and he's supposedly he's a lightweight, and he's a real hard liner like his father was. And so they're in control. They work in conjunction with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and that's a huge organization. We're talking. I've seen numbers between 300,000 to 1 million people in Iran that are part of that organization, either serving militarily or providing support for it. So one of the tragedies is the president was trying to get people to stand up to all of that in Iran. He said, "We're going to come and rescue you, and we're coming soon." Well, they didn't come soon enough because the Islamic Guard and others in Khomeini, before he was killed by us, they killed, they think, anywhere from 15 to 30,000 protesters and people against it. That many? Can you imagine that? And in that period of time, wow.
Well, let's. Part of what I think is underpinning this effort is a Christo nationalism from the far right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to pivot a little bit to elections here locally. We had a Democratic race for Senate in Texas that James Tallarico, who is trying to revive sort of I call it the white Christian Democratic persona, who beat Jasmine Crockett, a really strong candidate in Texas. And a lot of about that. But Tallarico is kind of fascinating. You as your Catholicism played a big role in just it's an important part of your life and a big role of your political values too.
Yeah.
But the Protestant white Christian is different than Catholicism, right?
Yes, it is.
Tallarico is trying to reclaim a chunk of those voters, and I think that actually relates back to the Iran war, which seems to me somewhat of a war that's anti-Islam, these guys are the other. So what do you think of Tallarico? How have you analyzed that race? And do you think he even has a chance in Texas?
Yes, I do think he has a chance. And I was very impressed with him. I didn't know much about him. I kept hearing people like, what's her name? Cox Richardson, who writes, has spoken highly, and other people of him. So I listened to a few of his speeches. I went online and found them. And he is very compelling. And he's an interesting guy because he does it. He's a minister.
Yeah.
He's a state lawmaker as well. But he does it from a value orientation that's centered around love.
Mm-hmm.
It's very positive, and recognizing the dignity of people, the dignity of man and women, of course, but I'm using man as a generic sense here. Mm-hmm. And he reaches people, and he reached a lot of people. And he won that election, I think, because he was able to give the country something different that we haven't seen. Someone who was thoughtful, who has a good value base to him, and also who is politically strategic. I mean, he won that race because he was able to get the Hispanic vote, which in Texas is huge, as you know. Yes. He cleaned Crockett pretty good and beat her pretty good, in those Hispanic neighborhoods and communities and precincts, and that's how he won the race. And so that's good news because we're bleeding with that community, and that tends to be a more religious community than most Hispanic community. So they felt something too in him, which was interesting.
A little shout out to Crockett, who absorbs the loss, and then a couple hours later is on DC, grilling Christy Nome very effectively. I remember from Ab Mikva, you can kind of tell a lot about a politician after they take a loss and how they respond to that. Sort of like an athlete, right? Can they bounce back from a failure?
Well, she'll be around. She's as you pointed out, she has a lot of skill.
Yeah,
and she's can be a little strident, but we need people who are tough.
Yeah.
In this environment, and she's a tough woman and smart woman. So
and she knows how to play in this new media sandbox that we have.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Tallarico does too. In some ways, Tallarico might have won that race because of the Trump administration and Brandon Carr putting pressure on Colbert to not show his interview.
That was important. Yeah.
Yeah, because he got like 10 million hits on YouTube of that interview, right? And got a week of free press, right? Being anti-Trump. So,
right.
The race was only decided by about 5 or 7 points. So that might have been.
But Colbert is that same kind of communicator. I mean, he does it with humor.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it has a good base to it. So.
Colbert's a serious religious guy too.
Yeah, he's Catholic.
Yeah, serious Catholic. I'm curious to see if Tallarico can at least get us competitive there. And speaking of,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just transitioning to a couple other races, but yeah, give me your final thoughts.
Well, I just wanted to say I saw some numbers on this race. People who voted in Texas in the Democratic primary and in the Republican primary, because there was a big race between Paxton and Cornyn.
Yeah.
And they came out almost even on their side, but didn't get the necessary majority. It was a third candidate. So there's a runoff now. And now they're struggling to find out if they can get Trump's endorsement. Both of them are trying to finagle that. I don't know where that's going to go. But the numbers showed there were more people who voted, which is unusual for Texas, in the Democratic primary, contested primary, Tallarico against Jasmine Crockett, than in the Republican primary, which was a very, very good sign. And plus, a lot of Republicans are retiring. There's like 35 in the House that are calling it quits, which is pretty high number at this. It's like 20 Democrats, but 35 Republicans. So they see the handwriting on the wall, some of them, and we'll see.
It's a tough time for incumbents of any party, as we saw in North Carolina. For North Carolina state lawmakers who sometimes would side with the Republican supermajority got knocked off by more progressive social media influencer types, right?
In the primary,
In the primary. So we're seeing it is not, you could be a Democrat and it's a tough time for incumbents. And we have a great race here in North Shore of Chicago.
Tell us about that, because I'm interested in that one. Yeah.
So Jan Schakowsky, a longtime congresswoman who you served with, stepped down.
Right.
It used to be Ab Mikva's area and district as well, and Sid Yates, people you served with.
Yeah. Great people.
Yeah, it kind of was known as the Jewish district, right? The progressive Jewish district. So you have a field of like 10, and there's some interesting candidates in there, but the polling that just has come out is it's 3 people who have a chance to win this. They're all polling around 20%. And I think it's a preview of the presidential primary. That's why I think it relates to our national audience here. So you have a 26-year-old influencer named Kat Abu Ghazaleh, goes by Kat Abu, attractive, strong, tough young woman who has made a name for herself taking on all these online right-wing trolls, right? And just standing up to them. And she's engaged to the guy who runs The Onion, the satiric paper. But she's a carpetbagger. She came, she just moved here 6 months ago. But very anti-Israel. She's actually a Palestinian descendant from a kind of a wealthy Palestinian family in Texas. But she's polling really well, and even though she's a carpetbagger, right? Then you have Laura Fine, who's a state lawmaker, who's progressive woman, but she takes AIPAC money, and I'm getting 27 mailers from from her. She's just got a lot of money. And
Well,
then
that's a problem today to take that money, I'll tell you. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
And then you have a guy in the middle, Daniel Biss, the mayor of Evanston, former state lawmaker, who trying to match Kat's activism. They both tried to get arrested by ICE, when ICE stormed Chicago a few months ago. And there's even video of Kat getting thrown to the ground violently by ICE agents. So it's an interesting race. So I will see if this 26-year-old influencer pulls it out, or the centrist, or the APAC candidate. So it's March 17th is when we'll know. Similarly with the Senate race here, Durbin stepping down, right? And so there's a left, right, center.
Pritzker doesn't have a primary, does he?
No, not a serious
Not to speak of, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Pritzker,
I guess there's not anybody on the Republican ticket that's kind of dynamic. Is that right, or am I wrong on that? I read something where the same crowd that ran against him last time.
I mean, the thing is, we had such financial troubles in Illinois 10 years ago, and we elected a Republican guy, a billionaire Rauner, who did poorly. And then Pritzker came in and kind of cleaned it up. And, even the cynics like me were surprised to hear how, have been surprised how effective Pritzker's been in governing it.
Yeah.
Very, with significant budget problems.
Yeah. So, as you know, I've mentioned on the show before, I've been very impressed with him, and I didn't start off that way, but I think he's handled himself well as your governor, and from far away, I'm talking, but I'm looking at it from a distance. But you're right there, so you would know.
Yeah, it's so keep an eye on Illinois, March 17th. I think there'll be some tea leaves for the presidential race coming up.
Just so our viewers know, Brian and I were very Brian for 20 some years was the head guy for the director for the Mikvah Challenge. So we would take kids, high school kids, and
campaign with them.
These are kids they were mostly from Chicago, but not entirely. And that program has expanded now all over the country. But we'd go to Iowa. We'd take them on buses to Iowa, and we'd go down to New Hampshire when they had the presidential primaries there. It was a wonderful experience to do all of that. So we've been on the hustings over a long period of time together.
I would always we had to be bipartisan, so I would always take the bullet and take the campaign that nobody wanted. So I'm the only progressive Democrat who can say I volunteered for Ted Cruz, Rudy Giuliani, George Bush.
Because you wanted to get, we've got to be spread it around so that all these kids have a chance to have an experience. So some of them have to go into campaigns that they necessarily didn't want to go, but at the end they were glad they had the experience of it.
We stopped in the Trump era because it started to become violent against kids of color, right? At least the old Republicans had a surface of non-racism, and you could show up. But these guys started to punch non-white people, and during the 16 campaigns, we stopped. We had to adjust the strategies back then, right?
Yeah.
It's a crazy time. Hey, let's go. Let's finish with a little bit of advice here. I mean, you're one of the best campaigners on economic issues and winning working class folks over to the Democratic Party, David. So I saw, you have the unemployment going up, gas prices going up, all these affordability challenges, but then you also have ICE, and you have these existential pieces in this Iran war. A lot of negative things. And then the FBI just came out with re-released report. FBI interviewed a 13, 14-year-old girl 4 times, said she was credible, who basically said that Trump sexually assaulted her and then physically assaulted her in graphic detail. You can go look it up online. They interviewed her 4 times, an FBI agent, and they found her credible.
This was when she was 13 or 14?
This is when she was 13 or 14. They interviewed her as an adult, but the accusation comes when she was a child, right?
Yeah.
So Trump, there's credible evidence that he might have been a child rape little girls, right? Um, so there's a lot to run on against this guy.
Yeah.
But where would you, if you're Gavin Newsom or J.B. Pritzker or Chrissy Whitmer, running for president, where's your messaging go here?
Well, my messaging still stays with the basic economic issues.
Yeah.
And that's jobs, affordability, inflation, opportunity in the economy. Now, these other pieces, and you can't ignore the whole Epstein thing. It's serious stuff. Trafficking women and children is serious business and deserves to be investigated and brought out to light. So someone will continue to do that.
Yeah.
But we just can't take our ball off of the other piece, which people have to deal with every day when they write their checks, or every week or month, and there's not enough money there because they can't afford the groceries, or their gas is going up, as it will continue to go up now. It's up 50 cents in the last couple of weeks as a result of the war.
Yeah.
At the pump we're talking about. So I think that's what I would do. Don't, it's important to keep your focus on where the focus is of the everyday working family in this country is, and that's at paying those bills and providing those economic opportunities for themselves and their family.
And I think we have to message it a little bit Mamdani style. Find some simple things like, I mean, he did the free buses, but you have to find a way. The word affordability doesn't have zing to it, so you gotta make this have some.
You know who used to be really good about all this?
Who?
The Republicans in
Okay.
Virginia. But it wasn't on the economy so much. It was on taxes, which is of course a big part of the economy. But
Yeah.
they would find something that would be attractive to people. Like in Virginia, there was a big issue called the car tax.
Mm-hmm.
They ran ads and everything. Get rid of the car tax. Get rid of the car tax. Well, they did it. They ended up getting rid of the car tax. But they ran on it, and that was the kind of the symbol for them that they were for the everyday family, everyday person. And they picked something out that actually people could relate to.
It was like Whitmer who fixed the damn roads, right? Was her tagline.
Right, fix the damn roads. Yeah, because in Illinois and in Michigan and all of our industrial Midwestern states, roads aren't very good because we got a lot of heavy trucks, a lot of manufacturing,
and the
they
freezing.
beat up those roads pretty good, and so that became a huge issue in our rate. In fact, one of my colleagues, Dale Kilsey, lovely guy, he's passed away now, but from Flint, was challenged one campaign by the Republicans and by the fellow who ran the transportation department in Michigan, and his name was Pat Novak, I think. And he was a nice guy, and he was a pretty competent guy, but things weren't getting done, and they weren't getting done in a timely manner. So the Kildee campaign tagged him with Pothole Pat. Pothole Pat. And they ran ads, and it became a real winner for Dale.
Yeah, you have to take you have to make things stick. Stickiness is
right.
is a messaging piece.
Well, as James Carville said, it's the economy, stupid. When people get off track, he just tries to get them back with remembering that. We'll see.
Exactly. And well, we're heading into March Madness. Well, maybe we'll talk sports next time. I don't have a good take on March Madness yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just give you a real quick rundown. We got 4 in the men's tournament. We're going to have 4 teams with really great records: Duke.
Oh yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Connecticut and Arizona.
Okay.
They'll probably all vie for the number 1 seeds. It'll be 4 of those number 1 seeds in the tournament. And we'll see what happens there. But that'll be a good. I follow women's basketball. I love watching the women play, and
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Iowa Hawkeye team where I went to school.
Oh,
So they're now playing this afternoon. They're playing against UCLA for the Big Ten. Yes, UCLA is in the Big Ten. Big Ten Women's Basketball Championship, and so we'll see how they make out. The UCLA is number 2 in the country. Iowa is in the top 10, but not rated as highly. So we'll see what happens there. But then after this week is over, the women start the big dance, where 68 teams, women teams are involved. So we'll see what happens. But it's fun to watch. Enjoy it. Now,
where's my favorite coach, the South Carolina coach? Well, how's her team doing this year?
Dawn Staley.
Dawn Staley.
Not as well, but she'll make the tournament, I think. Yeah. She'll make the tournament. There's one team in the men's division tournament, I should say, that's undefeated. Miami of Ohio.
Oh yeah, Miami was undefeated.
They're 31-0, and I keep checking their scores after they play each night. They play a couple times a week, and they win their games by a point or a basket, or they win it in overtime. They're all close. It must have been what an exciting time it must be for the students and for their fans.
That's a magical year. I have to catch a game of them. Well, I'm going to early predict Michigan because I don't watch much college basketball, but I saw them play, and they are tall.
They are very tall. They just beat my Hawkeyes last week by this past week by 2 points, 3 points. Yeah, close game.
They look like they have a lot of NBA guys on that team.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, David. It's a depressing week in the news, but it's always a pleasure to talk to you. So,
well, it's always good to see the sun come up, and it did today. So,
yeah. Have a great Sunday.
You too.
And, we'll catch you soon.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thanks for watching, everybody.